Manchester United bought Jadon Sancho to fix their right wing problems and then ended up playing him mostly on the left. Why is that? Let's figure it out. So there's two sides to Jadon Sancho as a winger. He's both a goal scorer and he's a creator, but how much we see of that differs on each flank. So here I have Jadon Sancho's statistics since the 2018-19 season. Some would say his breakout season. So I have his XG per 90 on one side, and then I also have his XA per 90. So we're just looking at his chance creation, and then we're also looking at his shot creation. So overall, Jadon Sancho is much more of a goal scorer on the left than he is on the right. And I know it's just a 0.5 difference, but small statistics like this cause huge differences. In terms of the right, he's much more of a creator. So here you have Jadon Sancho the passer, Jadon Sancho trying to look for openings for his strikers, for his teammates, whereas Jadon Sancho on the left is looking, for example, to cut inside and create goals. So you have two different players in one. Now, how can you utilize that best? If you look at the raw statistics, it's very easy to say that Jadon Sancho is just a better player on the left wing. So his goals per 90, assists per 90, take-ons, touches in the penalty box, passes into the final third are all much better when he's on the left wing. But that doesn't say the entire story. Let's take a look closer in terms of why Manchester United have been using him on the left wing in the first place. Is it just because of his quality, or is there something deeper? Now, the player that United signed from Dortmund, Jadon Sancho, is a different player than they have now. Let me show you why. So in front of me, I have all of the end locations of passes Jadon Sancho received from Achraf Hakimi and all of the successful passes that he received from Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Now this includes everything: Premier League, Bundesliga, Champions League. We can immediately tell there's a big difference in terms of the spaces that he's receiving from Hakimi and the spaces that he's receiving from Wan-Bissaka. Let's start with Hakimi first. So they established a very good partnership. How? By complementing each other in the spaces that they got into. So Achraf Hakimi is a fullback that really likes to overlap, and he does it very well. Now, combine that with a Jadon Sancho that could cut inside, move into the half spaces, and cause trouble just outside of the box, they became a very dangerous combination. United are obviously looking to replicate that on the right, but that didn't go as planned. Why? Because Aaron Wan-Bissaka is just simply a different player. Doesn't mean he's worse, it's just he's not a player that tends to overlap or be as productive going forward as a player like Hakimi does. So what ended up happening is Jadon Sancho, when playing on the right, tended to receive from deep twice as often. So he had to vacate going forward and then drop back into his own half to help Wan-Bissaka progress, which meant it was not efficient for either of them or the team overall. So Manchester United could not really benefit from Jadon Sancho, the right winger, as much as they could on the left. Let me show you why. Now, here's where Jadon Sancho receives from Luke Shaw, and here's where he receives from Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Now, immediately you can tell there's a huge difference. What is it? Jadon Sancho receives from advanced positions at a much higher volume from Luke Shaw than he does Aaron Wan-Bissaka, simply because they complement each other as a partnership much better. He doesn't have to drop deep as often because Luke Shaw is very competent going forward, staying wide, understanding when his winger needs him to overlap, when his winger needs him to underlap. He operates best when he has an overlapping fullback, when he has a very good partnership. He just has that better on the left than he does on the right. Now, what does this mean for players like Rashford? Does that mean he has to start playing on the right? How will Ten Hag approach this? Let's take a short look. Small look, whatever. Let's just take a look at it. I have in front of me a shot map of Marcus Rashford in what you could say was his best season for United, the 2019-2020 season. He was very good at the goal scoring. So he scored 11 goals, racked up 12.9 expected goals, and had 87 shots. But even at his best, there were certain flaws in Rashford's game. It's the amount of shots outside of the box. How Rashford is as a player is he tends to look for the ball a lot. He wants to help progress play, even when it's not the best option for the team or for himself. So what he usually does in those situations when he does receive the ball is one of two things. First thing is he tends to shoot outside of the box, even when, for example, there's a better pass. He doesn't look up and look at his surroundings like, for example, a player like Jadon Sancho does. It's just the way that he is. The second thing that he tends to do, which is more wasteful, is that he tends to attempt to dribble past 3-4 players and then develops a sort of tunnel vision where he just doesn't look up, which means that eventually he ends up losing the ball. Now, this happens more often on the left. Why? Because these past 3-4 seasons, Manchester United are very lopsided-y, so basically they tend to play on the left more than they do on the right, which meant that whenever you played Marcus Rashford on the left, he got more of the ball, tends to be a bit more wasteful of it. So even at his best, you could still improve him. Now, tweak him on the right, you have a Marcus Rashford that's a bit more aware of his surroundings. He can play as a runner, so he's more looking to find opportunities on the ball by creating space, trying to find gaps in the back line. That's a better Marcus Rashford, in my opinion. That's my hot take. Having Marcus Rashford on the right is even better for Sancho, especially given that he benefits from an additional player in that forward line, creating gaps, creating space, and it makes the team overall better because they have multiple options in terms of how they can attack. It isn't just all of the forwards asking for the ball. When you look at how the way Ten Hag plays, there are multiple ways actually. He can use his forwards as inside forwards, like cutting into those half spaces and into the box. He can use them wide and have his fullbacks run into those half spaces and underlap. There's multiple ways. And having players like Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford that are very comfortable switching flanks can only make them better. So whether Jadon Sancho is better on the left or the right, it's the left, it's a good problem to have. Even though Jadon Sancho had a slow start last season, he's only gonna get better, especially with the introduction of new signings like Tyler Malacia in that left back position.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic brings you the best sports journalism in the world in a personalised experience, connecting you with the stories and teams that you care about the most. There's coverage of 13 sports, plus direct access to world-class journalists through live Q&As, discussions and podcasts. Not to mention, it's all ad-free. And you can try it now for free for 30 days by clicking the link in the description.